Afternoon, everybody. This is Matt again with the Christian Journey series. I'm finally at a point with my videos that I wanted to get to for a while. This is the 7th character on the list, and this character is also my personal favorite character in all of literature, who obviously isn't Jesus Christ. This character, though, is the background to everything that I wanted to embody growing up as a man. Um, Characters from Lord of the Rings. Um, I could go over so much with Lord of the Rings. In fact, my friends probably are annoyed to death about hearing Lord of the Rings stuff. Sweat jacket. I've got jewelry from it, swords, weapons. The sword in particular I just grabbed is actually the weapon used by the character that I want to talk about today. And that character is Aragorn. Aragorn's backstory in the books and in the movies does slightly differ, but for overall purposes of it, much of it doesn't matter. I will say that the movie representation of Aragorn, despite people's grievances about certain things, I think Viggo Mortensen did a fantastic job, and I think Peter Jackson wrote the character perfectly in the movie. I'll show you. That is Aragorn from the movies. There's so much I can unpack with this character. I'm going to try to make this video a little shorter than what I probably would like to do, because I could go on and on and on about this character. There's a lot of things to this character, though, the qualities. He's a person, when you first meet him, he's kind of out in the shadows amongst the wilderness. He finds our main characters, and I say main characters because Sam and Frodo are kind of like a pair deal. People think that it's Frodo, but Tolkien himself has said that Samwise was meant to be the hero of the story, which I'll get into in the next video because he's the next character on the list. Going into that, you meet him first, and he's like just a man marred in mystery. The hobbits don't know much about him. Frodo's taking the ring to Rivendell so that they can decide what to do at a council of people who want to see the ring destroyed, or at least something done with it to save all of Middle-earth. Well, Aragorn's character is someone graced with humility, and he's chosen a path not to go down what his ancestors did. So, when we first meet him, he's a ranger, a watchman of the wild, a guardian to Middle-earth. He's someone with vigilant eyes who's always looking out, trying to help the little folk. Which is really funny because he is technically heir to the throne of Gondor, which is the high city of men. He is considered to be the king of men, of all men. However, he chose not to go down that path because of ancestral blood, because his bloodline seems to be corrupt and they make poor decisions, and they have like ancestral curses, so to speak, kind of like what's mentioned in the Bible. For me, this kind of represents something for me and my brother personally. Something I know both of us have been plagued with for a long time. Both of us honestly have been afraid to commit and get into relationships with women, partially because of the fact that his father, who's my stepfather, and my biological father were not good examples of what men really were. I've mentioned this in previous videos, and I cannot stress enough on this topic, like how important this is for both me and him. Both of us honestly have been afraid to commit, and I think part of that has hindered relationships that could have happened. Because it does feel like there's a curse on our family bloodline. There's cycles of abuse, cycles of traumas that just keep getting passed down from one generation to the next. And part of that is I don't want to carry that on to the next generation. I've mentioned this to several people. Well, there's one in particular where I've mentioned it to in depth, that I want to be able to raise my kids in a fun environment. And whilst I don't want to necessarily be the cool dad, I want to be the dad that my kids can go to when they've made mistakes and be like, hey, I made this mistake. Can we talk about it? Partially because my dad proclaimed that a lot and then didn't really do good up in following up on that. He has since gotten better as we've gotten older, and there's been a lot of forgiveness that's had to happen for that to be something. And having said that, going back to the character of Aragorn, so throughout the books and then the movies, they go on this journey and people are lost. People that everyone cared about. Gandalf dies, and it's even shown in the movies that the first person hit really hard by it is actually Aragorn. But then once they get outside, Aragorn's the first one to step up and take over the role as the leader of the Fellowship to keep everyone in safety. Despite his own personal feelings and loss, he keeps things moving. That's a warrior spirit, because sometimes you don't have time to grieve when lives are on the line. It's something that's very hard to do. It's something very few people have the capability of doing, and it takes someone of really strong, manly stature. And having said that, there's a couple of videos I would recommend looking up online that are going to kind of go along with what I'm talking about with this character. People talk about toxic masculinity a lot, and I think this character represents what healthy masculinity is. And I do agree that there is such a thing as toxic masculinity, but just not the way people want to believe it. Alpha males are absolutely annoying, in my opinion. These yo bros come at me, whatever. I have attitude sometimes, but I try not to get too far. I don't let my head get too... I want people to believe that I'm tough, but then at the end of the day, I really don't need people to believe I'm tough, because of the fact that oftentimes when I'm pissed, my silence speaks louder than my anger ever does. But having said that, going to the alpha males, I feel like they try to showboat too much and they try to push other people down. People have mistaken me for being an alpha male, which is kind of insulting, to be honest. Mostly because of the fact that, again, I don't like that mentality. I also don't like beta males any more than I like alpha males. Beta males whine and complain about every little thing that goes wrong, and then they complain about this and that and how their life is unfair and blah blah blah. It just goes on, and I'm gonna be honest with the ladies watching this. Don't date either one of these guys, please. Neither one of them is a good choice. They don't know what masculinity really is, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit here. Again, I recommend looking up the Aragorn masculinity video. There's actually 2 or 3 of them. I think the one's 15 minutes long. It's not a very long thing, but the guy does a good job of explaining it. I'm probably going to butcher this a little bit, but bear with me as I try. So, throughout the series, Aragorn's left with these decisions. When they first leave Rivendell in the movies, the woman he loves, Arwen, he's forced to make a decision because he loves her a lot, but she's given an option to leave to safety. So he lets his love go so that she can have the life that he thinks that she deserves, even though he truly does love her. Eventually, through what you can call prophetic vision in the series, Elrond knows that there's a child involved, and it's Arwen's and Aragorn's son. So he's kind of hesitant to it. Arwen comes back because she also sees the vision of the son. And Aragorn's even given mild prophetic visions through other things, like where he's laying on benches and stuff, talking to Arwen. So there's a lot of that. So he leaves to go out to complete his quest. In a religious context, this would be his purpose. And his purpose is eventually to become king, to step aside from his fears and take on the mantle of leadership that he was born to have. He's also the Redeemer, which is something that's a quality in Christian context. He redeems his entire family's bloodline because he makes the hard choices that they couldn't make. Even letting Frodo go when he had the opportunity to take the ring, and letting Frodo go off on his own with Sam. Instead, focusing on uniting all the factions of men and gather the soldiers from across the land to fight in one final battle. There's another line in this, the second movie, that hit me really hard as a kid. Legolas and Aragorn are talking in the Battle of Helm's Deep. There's like 300 soldiers, and they know they're going to be going up against like 10,000. And Legolas is talking to everyone about how everyone's going to die. And then he starts speaking in Elvish, and Aragorn, being able to understand both Elvish and English, Aragorn tells him, "Then I'll die as one of them." Again, I think this represents really good masculinity, because sometimes you can't run from the fight and you can't be afraid to die, especially if you're convicted and you want to stand by people and lift them up. In a Christian context, we constantly have to fight the battle, and it's ongoing, it never stops. And it takes a really healthy masculinity to understand that the battle never ends. So, then you get to the third movie. He's going out with the group after they've been called to war from a neighboring country, which is the Kingdom of Gondor. They're currently in Rohan. On the road there, he stopped by what they call the Dead Passes, I believe is what it's called. I'm probably... Anyways, so they go into these caves after Elrond shows up. Aragorn's given the sword that's broken from his ancestor, which, again, Blade Reforged is another almost prophetic thing, because it's kind of like baptism in a way, like when you come back, you're the blade that was broken being renewed. Renewal is a big thing in this series. So then he gets this blade. He goes and summons these men that were murderers, thieves, liars, cheaters, kind of stuff like that. And they refuse to serve anyone who isn't the King of Gondor, and he holds them true to their oath. Like, so right before all these men died, they were sworn to an oath to fight for the King of Gondor. Well, he is the King of Gondor at that point. He's already taken up the mantle. He's not officially crowned until the end of the third movie. So they go and fight this battle, and there's also this prophecy that spoke about Aragorn in the hands of a healer. I'm not entirely sure I feel this one completely yet, but sometimes being the person who listens and comforts other people, even putting your own comforts and discomforts to the side to help others, is a healing quality of a king. I honestly hope I get that quality. Some people probably think I already have it, but I am not entirely sure yet. I haven't seen it. I have belief that if it does show up, I'll see it when it's ready to be shown to me. There's a big moment in this movie where the last battle occurs. They go to press the enemy. Aragorn looks into this device, and he calls on Sauron to draw the eye away from Frodo and Sam's quest to destroy the ring. So, knowing full well that he's put himself in great danger, he does it so that the quest can be completed and evil can be completely vanquished. I personally feel strongly with this because of the fact that I think that if we're going to fight back against the evil in this world, sometimes we have to take a stand regardless of odds. I'm not a person that cares about odds. I've mentioned this before. I would much rather fight to my last breath. Um, Granted, I don't think that's God's plan. I think his plan is just to have me fight and probably conquer whatever's coming my way. Um, Granted, it's all for his purpose. I just get to be the guy that helps facilitate it. Now, there's this awesome speech in the third movie when they're standing there and he's on the back of the horse in the movie. Some people actually consider this speech polarizing. Um, I'll just read part of the speech so people kind of get an idea. I mean, I'm sure if people have watched Lord of the Rings, you've seen this, but it says, Aragorn says, "A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship, but it is not this day." I personally believe that it's going to take someone a really strong faith and conviction to want to stand up to what's going on in the world right now. I think it's by no accident that I asked for character qualities from this character in particular. Not just because I admired the character, but I admire what needs to be done to achieve the greater good. And sometimes that means not only speaking out, but acting out. Which in turn means that you can't really accomplish anything by just saying things. You have to put your foot forward and move. And sometimes moving is not always that easy. Now, in my past video, I had mentioned a transformation from Steve Rogers to Captain America. Steve Rogers to Aragorn was what I was getting at. So there has to be a transformation from these two characters. I have to let go of any of my past traumas, like let it out. And even then, like Aragorn had his own things he had to deal with, like those worries of being like his father and his ancestors. More his ancestors than his father than anything. But the thing is that if you hold on to those fears, you can never really see what the bigger plan is that God's got for you. And sometimes it's letting go of those fears. Personally, I think that maybe these particular fears in my own life have held me back for a long time. And also, there's been a lot of doubt creep in from people, including my father, who've said things to where it's made me doubt whether or not I truly ever felt like I was worthy of doing things. And one thing I've come to realize, and I know my brother can understand this, we're not our fathers. We're nothing like them. We've had our own struggles and our own growth and development. Now it's time for us to step out of the shadows. And I say this too to my friends that are out there watching this. Sometimes you gotta put your foot forward in a situation. Fear shouldn't be what holds you back. God will hold people back for a short time, but sometimes he also likes to see whether or not we'll move when fear is placed in front of us. To overcome your fears and to step where most wouldn't dare go is a hallmark of someone who's truly Christian. We're born to fight the darkness, not run from it. Anyways, I kind of hope this was an enlightening video to what Lord of the Rings is, one, and like qualities from Aragorn. Again, highly recommend going and watching that video on Aragorn and masculinity. I think for a lot of young men out there, this character should be an inspiration to what we should all be achieving or striving for. Anyways, see you guys next video.